So I'm in the 1940 25-foot Chris Craft Sportsman. Now in the last video of the shop tour, I talked a little bit about this boat and how rare it was that they only made 25 of them. We are super excited to get started on this project, but one of the things I wanted to talk to you guys about is what to do when you get the boat for the first time, and what is the process that we use to maybe help you achieve the goal of restoration, you know, where to start. One of the things we look at is originality. We're big in this shop about originality, and we're big in this shop about keep restoring the boat in a way where it'll last another 70 to 100 years. That's the main goal. This boat is rare enough to where we want to make sure we put this thing back together and restore this thing properly. It's not so much of a preservation as it is the longevity and life of the boat. That's the whole key to the whole process that we use. We don't want to keep an old plank on the side just because it's the old plank. That doesn't make sense. That's not going to last another 70 years. That plank's already 70 plus years old. I highly doubt you're going to get another 70 years out of it. So that's the kind of the mindset. Originality, what needs to be replaced to make sure this boat lasts another 70 to 100 years. So now we have removed a bunch of the parts that we know are not original to the boat. We're going to get rid of those, set them off to the side, not throw them away. You're not going to throw anything away. That's very important. Don't throw anything away because you're really not 100% sure that it didn't come with the boat. But these cushions and that kind of stuff, I mean, you can tell this thing came with green leather, and that's not green leather. So that we're just going to set aside for right now. We did find some seat bases, though, that looked original. So we're going to investigate that a little bit more. But right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this boat back together again, because I want to make sure that all the pieces that we have here are original. And the only way to do that is to put the boat back together. So I'm going to do that now. Another thing is take pictures. You cannot take too many pictures. I can't tell you how many times that we've photographed a boat when it came in here and we've taken it apart, and we needed that one shot in a corner somewhere, and we didn't have it. So document your boat with a camera or a video camera is a great way to do it, because you might need those pictures later when you put the boat back together again during restoration. Now, just from taking so many boats apart, I can kind of tell what pieces go where. These are the uprights that go back by the fuel tank, and then this area gets buttoned up by some panels. And it looks like, to me, we have all those panels. We got a center one, then we have that one, and then the other side. I'm not going to take time and screwing all that back in, because I'm just going to have to take it off later. So we'll just start moving forward. All right, we got that back area situated. Now we're moving forward. We found some couple other pieces buried in here. We found some trim pieces. Pretty sure we know where all that goes. So we'll that is definitely an original piece. Maybe not, it could be original interior as well. There's that apple green. I did find a board. That's pretty interesting. This stuff on here, this held your tack cable and your oil line. So I know that this board goes up above the steering wheel area. And then the door for the back cupboard there. That's good to see. Also came with a lock in it, so you could lock it. It's pretty neat. So all the time that we're looking through all these parts and pieces, we're looking for a hull number. Some of these pieces will just have like the number 25 on it. Or even in the boat back there, we see pieces with 17 on it. And it may be that they've built 20 hulls and they made 40 pieces and they need to specify which boat it went to. So sometimes you just see the 25. Sometimes you'll actually find the hull number. Old gauge. We want to make sure we keep all those. These are very important, very rare. Like I said in the last video, they only did this 1 year with these blue face gauges, so they are rare. Okay, so I basically found all the pieces that I need. There's a couple little pieces that are missing. I did find a hull number. So the hull number on this boat, to verify it, is 12511. So that would say that, you know, it's a 25-foot Sportsman, and we know that it was the 11th one built. So that makes sense. We also found it on one of the seat bottoms here. So that confirms that this hull is 12511. Now what we can do is we can do a little research and then get the hull card sent to us. Okay, we found the hull number, 12511. Now we're going to verify it in this book. This is a Chris Craft Essential Guide. Hard to find, especially an original one. I've had this one a while. As you can see, we use it all the time. Pretty much we verify every single boat that comes through this shop. So this is separated with pre-war, post-war. So we know this is a pre-war boat. So we're going to go to pre-war in the beginning, and we're going to go to 25. So here we go, 25-foot Sportsman, built from 1940 to 1941. They built 25 hulls. The serial number started with 12501. This hull is 12511. So that checks out that this is a 25 Sportsman 1940-41. The next thing you can do if you don't have this book and you have the number is contact the Mariners Museum. Now they have the Chris Craft collection of all the paperwork for most of the boats. And what you can do is order your hull card. Now this is a copy of the original hull card to this boat when this boat was built. There's a couple pieces of information here that we want to look at. One is the hull number, that the hull number checks out. It's on the top, it's 12511. We also then look for things like, did it come with any special items that were different than in here that were standard? I didn't find any in here. We can also tell where the boat was shipped. This is Delvine Lake, Minnesota. I believe that's what it said. Sometimes they're really hard to read on here. But we know that it was shipped out. The date that it was shipped was 5/15/40. So it left the factory May 15th, 1940. Very important to have. It also says if it came with an anchor, the flooring was linoleum, the upholstery type was leather, the upholstery color was green, upholstery forward had 3 cushions, upholstery in the midship had also 3 cushions. So very useful information to document your boat and to make sure of what you got. Because once again, we're restoring this boat. We're not trying to preserve it. We're not trying to just keep it the way it is. We want to make it back to how it left the factory. This boat is a really good candidate for that. Digging around, we found another place where the hull number is, and that's why I say you got to look around, because it's stamped in the middle seat fold down area, and it's just right here. Chris Craft did that sometimes with not just a number 25, but they did the hull number in here, because what they wanted to do is make sure after this piece got varnished, it goes back to the boat that it was made for and fit for. So pretty cool. Also pretty neat what we found. These are the original cupboard doors for the backs of the seats right here. When we restore a boat, we put it back basically like the factory did, and we try to book match planking. And so here is evidence that they did it at the factory. Very cool piece of wood. They used this for one of the cupboards, but what did they do? On the other side, they used the same piece, so they book matched it. So very important pieces. Keep your eye out for details like that. Keep these pieces. We'll use those pieces. We will strip them down, sand them, stain them, and then varnish them when we varnish the rest of the pieces of the boat. So we're trying to save as much as we can that is in good shape, but if it's bad, it's bad. And if we're going to rely on it to keep this boat afloat and rely on it for the longevity of this boat for another 70 plus years, we're going to replace it if it's damaged or oil filled. Okay, so as digging through the boat, we found some key pieces here. We have the bow light, very important. We have the glass. A lot of times you can't get new glass because they don't make them. They can't make them safety, so they don't make them. So very important to keep the glass. You can get plastic ones, but that's not original, right? So here's another piece and another piece, and that should be everything we need for the bow light. We found the T-handle drain, very important. We'll reuse that. We found some trim pieces. This must be for, I don't know, one of the shifting levers. We'll have to make sure that this was an original piece to the boat. Somebody could have added it. So we're going to dig in and look at some other 25-foot Sportsman pre-war and to make sure that they have these same components and use them over again. We also found some like hooks. Now, for doing this for so long, I can tell that this is not a Chris Craft part, although bronze and old. But when I look at the face of it, so we know that this is Wilcox and Crittenden, and they made many, many of these and sold them all over the place. Chris Craft really didn't use much of Wilcox and Crittenden. If the boat was delivered with this, it was probably put on from the dealer, okay? The guy that bought the boat or the lady that bought the boat said, well, I need a pike pole holders. And so they would find those pike pole holders. They probably had them on stock, and they would add them to the boat. Also, another thing that's added to the boat that people don't understand is a spotlight. Boats didn't leave the factory with spotlights on them. So that's not original to the boat. That was put on by a dealer. So is it wrong? Not really. It's probably been with the boat all of its life. But for restoration purposes, we're not going to put that light back on there. Now we can add it later easily, but we're going to try to restore this thing exactly like if it left the factory, and by doing that, we wouldn't put the light on there. If the customer wants it on, we can do it later. On the next video, what we're going to do is really clean up and organize and then label stuff. We're going to take off the hardware and then also look in some of those photos to make sure what's original and what isn't. Go through all that, label it, that kind of stuff. So stay tuned for that, and we will see you back here.